Hey everyone, welcome to Balanced Bodybuilding Radio. I am your host, Leemarie. I am a glam girl bikini coach and an NPC bikini competitor, and I am here with my coach and my co-host.
Hey guys, Amy Anger, Glam Girl Bikini founder and CEO.
And today we are talking about measuring your body fat percentage and the different methods used and the accuracy and the convenience levels and why knowing your body fat percentage is even important for lifestyle and improvement season. So that is our subject for today. But first, we do have a listener question, and I'm just going to read this off. We got this one on our Instagram. If you have a question for us, random or specific, or if you have a topic that you want us to discuss, please send us a DM on Instagram at Balanced Bodybuilding Radio, or if you are watching this on YouTube, feel free to leave it in the comments and we will get that in a future episode. So today's question is about diet hacks. So she said, you shared two things so far that I love, the puffed cereal hack and the chicken breast pizza crust. I am sure you have tons more. So she's asking for diet hacks. And yes, we did mention in a previous episode some of our favorite volume hacks. And one of them was puffed rice, puffed corn cereal. And another one was a chicken breast pizza crust. So
Zero Carb Life is the brand.
let's go.
Yeah, and it's like 35 grams of protein, and the number one ingredient is chicken breast.
So you can have pizza and make it macro
Yeah,
friendly. So
yeah.
what is a good diet hack that you have today?
So I have two that I wanted to share, and one is if you like tostadas, but your carb budget needs to be low, you can use either the broccoli thins or the cauliflower thins by Outer Isle. And I was just looking up the macros. It's literally one carb, two fat, 3.5 grams of protein. So 35 calories. And if you really like tostadas, it really has like that crunchy, like
Mhm.
taco circle feeling to it. And then if you like wraps, super macro friendly egg white. It's by Egg Life. It's a wrap and they have different flavors, but the basic one is 6 grams of protein, one fat, and one carb. So they're both 35 calories. And it can be a good way to, if you are living a low carb life, or if you have, a bit of a carb budget, but you don't want to spend it on a wrap or a tostada, like that's a
Mhm.
good way to just put in some extra, like little bit of protein and like a vegetable that kind of subs for that. So that's my
I
hack.
love that. I also love about both of those things, which have to do with my hack, is that they are they're taking the place of a carb, but they're
Hmm.
so high in protein. And I know one of our athletes had posted about struggling to reach her protein one day because she just couldn't eat all the food. She just was super busy and couldn't get to that much food. So I love little hacks that boost protein. So one hack that I have is collagen powder. And this is just to boost protein. So if you have a hard time reaching your protein and you want to add in extra, adding in collagen peptides to your shake, to your coffee, to a soup, to something like that. Collagen is super good for hair, skin, and nail health, but then also it will add in protein, but you won't feel like you have to eat a lot of extra stuff. And then just kind of the same sort of thing is just gelatin, unflavored gelatin. I discovered this when I used to put sugar-free, fat-free pudding mix in my shakes to like fluffen them up, make them taste really good. But there's some carbs and fats in them as well, even though they're like super low calorie. And then I found you can just get regular unflavored gelatin and it'll have like the same effect, but it's strictly protein. There's zero fat, zero carbs, and I think there's like 4 or 6 grams of protein per like teaspoon or something like that. Like it's pretty good. So you can just add that in and boost protein numbers. So there's a couple of hacks
Yeah.
for protein.
Just a caveat or I guess a disclaimer that I want to add to that because a lot of my clients will have collagen as their protein source before a lift. Just keep in mind that is not complete protein. It is excellent for repairing and building ligaments and joint tissue,
Mm-hmm.
but it does not build muscle tissue. So
Mm-hmm.
do not use that as your protein bolus for stimulating muscle protein synthesis. It is an incomplete protein, similar to like vegan or animal type of proteins, where it doesn't have the complete amino acid profile of the 9 different essential amino acids that our body doesn't make, that we have to ingest.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. Like if you are, you know, in the improvement season as a bodybuilder, and muscle
Yes.
building is super important to you, not all proteins are created equal when it comes to the amino acids that are in them. So,
That's a really good point. And so a lot of the confusion I get sometimes too is like, can I count that into my protein? And yes, you can count it into your protein, but it should not be your only source of protein. So just be
mhm.
cautionary when you get, like, I just get recommend just the collagen unflavored the supplement, but I know there are some companies that put out protein shakes that are like collagen shakes. So that would be like, don't do that for your like post-workout shake or whatever. Like you want to get a complete source of protein. But yes, you can count it towards
Yeah.
your protein. Love
But I mean, if you are vegan, you're going to have run into that same problem.
it.
You just
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure you have different varieties of protein or different sources, because different ones will have different amino acids in them. They
Mm-hmm.
won't have all 9. So you just need to have a wide variety of protein if you're going to use that.
I love it. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Okay, guys. So send us questions if you want. All right. So let's dive into this. We are looking at the methods used, the most common methods used to measure body fat percentage. So, what is body fat percentage and why is it important to know, especially because we are geared toward lifestyle, so weight loss. If you are just trying to lose some weight, get to a healthy body weight, why is it important to differentiate your body fat percentage and body fat loss? And then also in an improvement season, what are like the ways that you can track your muscle? You're going to be trying to gain muscle. Why should you know your body fat? Why is it important? That kind of thing. So what is body fat percentage? Body fat percentage is the proportion of fat mass to total body mass. So expressed as a percentage. So how much of your total body mass is body fat? And then why is it important to know that number? There are ranges, and we'll go over the recommended ranges too, just for general health as well. And I think it's good to make a note that there are ranges. So if as long as you're within a healthy range, I would say it's important to know, just if you are trying to make progress, it can be a great marker to know, that your body fat is trending down or trending up, like wherever you're at, whatever your goals are. But there are ranges of body fat percentage that actually are not healthy, and it's on both ends of the spectrum. So it is not healthy to be too high, but it's also not healthy to be too low. So just to be careful to not to always think lower is better, lower is better, lower is better with body weight and with body fat percentage. It's finding that sweet spot, that middle range, and what range is healthy for you and your goals as well. So do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that people understand that if you're in the improvement season, this can be a great tool for you, as the scale doesn't move a whole lot. It's a great measurement. If your goal is to build muscle, this is the best tool that you can possibly use, aside from also, your measurements will show you as well. If you're losing fat and building muscle, muscle is very dense. It doesn't take up a lot of space. So if you're losing fat at a similar rate that you're building muscle, the scale is not going to move much, but your inches are going to move. This is another tool in your toolbox that you can really concretely say, this is how many pounds of muscle I had when I started. This is how many pounds of muscle I have when I ended. And the more muscle you have and the less fat, remember, it's a ratio. So when your goal is especially to build muscle, this is a great tool to use. People that are ectomorphs and hard gainers, this is the only measurement tool that we really want to use, because our goal, as women, I feel like too, we have a big hang up with what the scale is doing. If it's not moving, we feel like we're not progressing. I was just talking with a client, that's getting ready for a show, and our main goal for this prep was to lose and tighten up in her thighs. And her weight has actually either been staying the same or going up.
Mm.
but her thigh continually keeps going down, down, down. And she was frustrated until I kind of like sent her this Loom video today. And I was like, as long as your thigh keeps moving, we're going in the right direction. It's just your body on the scale end of things, it's not keeping up with how much muscle you're building versus how much fat you're losing. So you always need to have like different indicators for progress and success. And it's important as women, I think, to really keep that in mind that the scale is not our, it can be a great tool for tracking one data point, but it's not everything. So with that in mind, we want to think about like what percentages are like obese, what percentages would be considered amenorrhea, where you wouldn't have your menstrual cycle. So at about 10 to 13% body fat, and it depends on the individual. Some people will start to lose their cycle at like 15 to 17%. Everyone's different. Some people will keep their cycle at 9% body fat. Some of that too is the tool that you use, and we'll get into that and the accuracy and the disparity of different measurement tools on how it really doesn't, it's more about measuring against the same tool versus looking at different things, because it can start to get the ranges of, like, for example, an in-body versus a DEXA, it's like 7% different. And we'll get into those nitty gritty details. But for athletes, we want about 14 to 20%. That fitness range is anything for females under 25%. So like 21 to 24 is good. Um, when we were just talking about, when we just hopped on like right before this, that when I was in school, so this kind of dates me as how old I am, but yeah, I'm in my 40s. So when I was in school, we considered anything over 30% obese, and the new standards are now like 32% or higher. So yeah, once you start getting in that 25 to 30, anything above there, you kind of have to start watching, because it just puts you at risk for disease. And the more fat is accumulated by like your heart and organs, you can be at risk for certain, heart disease and diabetes and different things that come along with that, metabolic syndromes. Did you want to take them in on this one?
Oh yeah. Okay. So guys can get away with a much lower body fat percentage. I think partly because they have more muscle mass too. So they have more muscle mass, so that's going to affect their body fat percentage. And then also they can just get away with lower body fat percentages and still be healthy. So for men, their essential body fat is going to be 2 to 5%. And then for athletes, it's going to be 6 to 13%. For fitness, so you have general fitness, you're generally healthy and active, 14 to 17%. An acceptable range is 18 to 24. And then for men, the obese category starts from 25% up. And I don't know if that changed as
No,
well.
that actually stayed
Remember?
the same,
That's
which is
interesting.
weird.
That
Yeah.
is really interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's all about childbearing, right? We need to be able to
Yeah.
have enough body fat to support, which
Mhm.
is why our bodies are super smart. We stop having a cycle when we don't have enough fat to support another
Mhm.
human being in our body, whereas men don't have that gift, right? So females have to, their bodies are they have some regulations in them. So that's why people can lose their cycle because of stress, or like if they're off in the military. Our bodies are very smart. They'll shut down our reproductive system if it knows that we can't carry a child at that time. So let's start with the first type of tool that you can use for measuring body fat. So skin fold testing. I used to use calipers all of the time with my clients. Before I got my Fit 3D scanner, whenever I would have people come over, I did the 7 site. There's lots of different ones. The more sites, the better, the
Mhm.
more accurate. So you can do a 9 site. When you get into like 2 and 3 sites, it's very inaccurate. It's very hard to tell because people carry body fat in different places. So, like, for example, me, I carry pretty much all my fat in my butt. And
Which is
then some people,
perfect for bikini, right?
maybe, yeah. And then I carry like hardly any in my core. But then some people carry all of it in their core if they're an apple
Mhm.
shape, and then some people, so the accuracy of the skin fold, it can also be greatly based on the measurer. So how advanced they are and how practiced they are. So I could do calipers in my sleep. There was a point in time where I was doing like at least 10 a week, if
Mhm.
not more. And I could measure everything anatomically exactly the same every time. Then I would have my husband like use my calipers and kind of like do mine every couple of months. And it just was very inaccurate. Like I could even pinch a little bit better on myself in some places, like
Wow.
my scapula and stuff I couldn't get, but like my thigh and my
Mhm.
calf and stuff like that, my abdomen, I could get a better reading just because I was used to how to pull the fat, the subcutaneous fat off the body and to really like accurately measure it.
Mhm.
So it's it's not bad. It's not a bad measurement tool. It's very cost effective. So
Mhm.
that's where I would say the pro is. It's very convenient.
Mhm.
A lot of these places you have to set up appointments, you have to be fasted, like different things like that. You can do this in the comfort of your own home. You can buy a skin caliper for, I mean, they're very affordable. And
Mhm.
then what I would use is my app called Body Tracker.
Hmm.
And you just input that in. It's a free app and it calculates the person's body fat and it gives you like a number of everything. But you have to just compare apples to apples. So the percentages are going to be on the lower side than a more accurate test, if that makes sense. So,
So you might think that you have a lower body fat percentage than you actually do. Okay.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah. But
But
again, it's more about like seeing the progress.
then,
And I like that one in this way as an athlete myself, like when I used to do it, I liked seeing, oh, I lost a lot in my tricep or I lost a lot in my leg this week. It was kind of cool to see the actual parts because
mm-hmm,
in some other tests, like you're just seeing the whole
mm-hmm,
picture, like in a fit 3D scan, other than your inches and the different spots. Whereas like DEXA, you can see in the different places as well. But that's something unique to like a skin fold test. You can see the different places where you're losing fat versus like an InBody that does like the whole body by
right.
itself.
Yes. Okay, so speaking of, we're going to go into the next one, which is it's classified as body fat scales, but I would say this would encompass the scales, like the smart scales that you can buy for your home where it like hooks up to
Mhm.
an app on your phone. Also the handheld devices where you hold the hand, you hold it out and it measures you. And then I would put the InBody under this as well. The
Mhm.
InBody. So I think those are pretty popular. If you go into any sort of, big gym and they do a body fat percentage test on you, it's probably going to be some sort of an InBody or handheld device. And then the scales are really popular too. So they use all of these methods use bioelectrical impedance. Am I saying that right? Okay.
Yes, you are.
It's to estimate the accurate body fat percentage by measuring the electrical current resistance as it passes through the body. So it's just a small bit of electrical current that goes through your body. And then it's like a weak current that goes, and then the voltage is measured in order to calculate the resistance and reactance of the body. And so it has to do with
Mhm.
the total body water to
Can I
estimate fat free mass.
Can
And
I add something to that
yes,
just really
please
quick? I
do.
don't mean to cut you off, but I taught this at the high school and
Mhm.
the way that I explained it to my students, it made it very easy to remember. So if you think about an electrical storm, you never want to be like in a pool when there's a
Mhm.
thunderstorm or an electric storm. And because water is a great conductor of electricity,
Yes.
they always say like you're safe with your tires because they're made of rubber. Rubber is a very poor conductor of electricity. So if you think about rubber as your fat and then water in your muscles, that current goes through really quickly
Mhm.
if you have a lot of lean tissue. So where it can go really slow is if you have a lot of body fat, it's going to slow down the current through your body. But with the the main thing that you have to realize is if you are dehydrated, it's
Mhm.
going to show a false read. So if your muscles don't have as much water in terms of like you just worked out and then you took one of those scans, you're going to be slightly dehydrated. If you drink some coffee, it's a diuretic, so you've peed out a lot of your water. So those things are things that can make it more inaccurate, but
Mhm.
I
So
just,
you
I
want
just
to
want to
just
kind
make
of add
sure,
that
yeah,
like
you
for a
want to
little
make
bit more
sure that
understandable.
you are doing like the same, like you're consistent with, always taking it, the same time with the same amount of water and
Mhm.
food. So I saw someone had asked a question on how you can cheat your body fat percentage, and the answer was eat a big meal. And I guess that maybe would make because food does have some water in it too. Maybe they meant like carbs too. Carbs can make you hold water, and that they were
Mhm.
saying if you eat a big meal, it'll make you appear to have less body fat percentage, which I thought was really interesting. And then I used to use this all the time at the gym that I worked at. And if it was very odd, like oddly off, and they hadn't changed much, but the percentage was off, I remember I would always ask them if they were on their cycle or like the week before their cycle, because, your body retaining water because
Water.
of that and stuff too can really throw it off.
Hmm.
So as long as you're consistent with like the time of the month that you take it, as a female, and the time of day, and what, don't take it right after you work out. That'll throw it off. So being
Hmm.
consistent. It did say that the accuracy is about 3.5 to 5%. And I
Off.
think, yeah, I think they mean off. So
Mhm.
that's pretty good. It's when held up against like other forms of measurement. But I would still say track your progress with it, track the trends. I know I
Yeah.
was doing it during my first prep, and then I would come and do the scanner. You have a Fit 3D scanner. I would come to yours, and it was off by, I believe, about 6 or 7%.
Hmm.
Which your scanner, the Fit 3D scanner, will be more accurate, but it was consistently off. So it was showing me consistent trends, just not super accurate, but
I
not.
did an experiment. I did an InBody under the same circumstances, and I went directly to DexaFit KC and took a Dexa, which is the gold standard,
Mhm.
and it was always 7% off. It was
Interesting.
showing that I was 7% lower body fat. So
Yeah.
just keep in mind, it's going to say that you're at 5 to 7% lower. And I've noticed that with my clients too, that that's about the range. Some pros about this type of measurement tool, especially if you have an actual scale at your house, it's very convenient.
Mhm.
It's very affordable. You have a one-time investment in the scale. If you're doing an in-body, I know a lot of clients that get them for free at like supplement stores
Mhm.
or at their gym. It just makes it inconvenient as to when you can actually get on that scale.
Yeah.
I know I bought like a package at the rec center for like $10 an in-body scan. So they're very affordable.
Mhm.
So that's an advantage, and they're quick and easy.
They usually give you a little printout, like readout
Hmm.
the in-body scans do, and then on
And it
your
shows you.
scales, you get it on your app. That's kind of
Yeah, and it
fun.
shows you like
Okay.
the comparison over time, which
Yeah.
is great. Yeah.
So great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one I would say would probably be the most popular.
Hmm.
And then the next one, do you want to go into the next one?
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the body circumference measurements. I mean, we definitely have our athletes take their measurements so that we can track that as a mode of progress. Um, and obviously, like with the Fit 3D scanner, it takes your circumference measurements and compares them to like a DEXA, and that's how it calculates um your percent of fat. But this one in particular, I had never really heard of or used.
Yeah,
How
I've
about
never
you?
used it either. I've just used measurements, like you said, as a way to track progress, just another
Hmm.
method.
Yeah.
And it's really easy because literally probably everybody has a measuring tape, or you can get one for like 50 cents. So that's just a good way to measure progress too. But the body circumference measurements is actually you take the measurement of your waist and your neck. And then for males, it's just those two. For females, you add in your hips at the widest part of your hips.
Okay.
And then there is a mathematical formula that you use to calculate it. And you'd have to Google it. It's a long formula, but you put in the numbers, you figure out this
Yeah.
formula, and it gives you an estimated body fat percentage using just those three measurements. So it is not going to have a super high accuracy, I would guess, tend to say, especially since some
Yeah.
people, like maybe some people hold body fat in different areas, like their legs or, their
Mhm.
arms or something like that. So then just measuring your waist, hips, and neck might not give you, accurate ways to track body fat percentage, but it can be a
Mhm.
great tool to track progress too. If you're building muscle, losing body fat, but the scale's not moving, but the measurements are, that is a good way to track progress, especially in the improvement season, I would say.
So I have a question for you because I think that this is something common that I find is that do you find that like with your tape measure, it's really easy to kind of throw off the numbers if you pull tight or
Mhm.
if your tape measure is stretched out or if you have to like replace an old one and get a tighter one? I just feel like there's some
You can
discrepancy.
manipulate it pretty hard. I mean, you can let out
Yeah.
all the air in your stomach and
Yeah.
manipulate
And
those
like
numbers
really suck
for sure.
in and yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would guess with your neck, you wouldn't maybe really do much.
No.
But yeah, and then especially around your hips, I mean, body fat is a lot more cushiony and pliable than muscle. So like you can squeeze
Yeah,
and
you
make
can
it
tug it.
stay a little bit. Yeah. So that is true. I mean,
Yeah.
take this one with a grain of salt, I would guess. But
Yeah.
okay, so the next one is hydrostatic weighing. So this is submerging the body in water and measuring the displacement of water to calculate body volume and density. So I know you mentioned DEXA being the gold standard. I mean, DEXA is kind of the gold standard. They say this one is considered also the gold standard for body
Mhm.
fat measure. It is high accuracy levels, but
Mhm.
you have to have specialized equipment. So I know,
Really
like they said,
specialized.
like there are some universities that have them, like labs, stuff
Mhm.
like that, but it's hard to get into and probably expensive. I have
Yeah.
never done this before.
So in my anatomy and physiology, or it was our exercise physiology lab, we did the hydrostatic weighing and we had one volunteer out of our whole lab cohort of people that did this because it's really cumbersome. You have to be a highly trained individual to allow them to like do this properly and to have it measured because they have to like let the breath out of there and they have to have a
Wow.
mask and they have to be submerged and it's a real pain in the butt to get that
You
set up.
really have to want to know
And
your body fat
yeah, I
percentage.
mean, it is very accurate, but it is also very cumbersome. So
Mhm,
it's a huge disadvantage when you're comparing gold standards and how accessible a DEXA is. And we'll
mhm.
get into that
Yeah,
one. Maybe we should talk about that next. But
sure. Yes.
um, so the DEXA is like an X-ray basically, and I like the DEXA because it tells you in every compartment, basically like your android, your gynoid, your arms, your legs, how much muscle you have in pounds in each spot. So I was able to pick out like I had an imbalance in my legs. I had way more body fat in my right leg and like a pound and a half less muscle than my left. And I realized that my right leg was shorter and I had to get like a shoe insert. And once I got that shoe insert, my next DEXA showed that both my legs had equal muscle. So it can show some really cool things in terms of that. It can also help with like bone density. So I know my mom does it for her cancer checkups because her medicine, will decrease her bone density and things like that. Um, so there's really great things about that. It gives you a really cool printout. It shows you your actual visceral fat, which is one that's hard to measure. I don't know of any other tool that does your visceral fat.
Mhm.
The probably the biggest negative of the DEXA is that it's really expensive. Um, it is best to do like when you're fasted. And so setting up the appointment is kind of cumbersome there as well, just to make sure that you haven't eaten or drank anything or exercised. So I usually have to do it like on a weekend for me. Are there any plus or minuses of the DEXA that you can think of? I guess X-ray exposure, that's
Mhm.
radiation exposure isn't great to have all the time.
Yeah, I would say like I would just was just gonna ask like it would be really interesting to see all those details, but what would you say like would you recommend someone that was lifestyle or in the improvement season to get this? And if so, like twice a year? I mean, I'm sure probably not once a month just because of the inconvenience of it, or like what would you
And the
say?
cost. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say definitely improvement season because you're trying to build muscle.
Hmm.
So if you want to know how much muscle you've gained in an improvement season, it's a great way to do it when you start the improvement season and when you end, just to
Love
see how
it.
much you've gained. If you're a lifestyle client, and you're just wanting a better like motivation for weight loss and everything, it's just like it's great for them. So
Yeah.
if they start like maybe a diet, I would suggest doing the DEXA at the beginning and at the end. Definitely quarterly would be fine, or every 3 months. I always do it at the beginning of prep, and then I do it like during peak week or the week before, just to see how much muscle I've lost in a prep. And then I like to know, like, right when I get out of an improvement season, like kind of how much fat I need to lose for my dieting phase, but then also like how much muscle I had gained in
Hmm.
the improvement. So, but yeah, it is pretty expensive. So
Hmm. So then this leads to the last one, which I'm really curious to do. I want you to talk about the Fit 3D scanner because you have one, but I
yeah,
also kind of want to hear because to me, the Fit 3D tells you a lot of information and is pretty
yeah.
accurate. When I looked up the accuracy, it said Fit 3D, I believe it's version 4.0. The algorithm predicted the body fat within 5% accuracy 90.4% of the time. So that's
Hmm.
pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But I want to know like why would you what are the extras and what are the like why would you do a DEXA when you could do the Fit 3D? But then first just talk about the Fit 3D too.
Yeah. So I don't want to skip over air displacement because
Oh,
those are
sure.
actually the bod pods are really popular too. And I've done one of those and they're really good. So we'll circle back to that in a second, but I think I want to follow your train of thought because I think it's important. So I've had a lot of people come over to the Glam Lab, do the Fit 3D scanner, and then they just drive over to Olathe 10 minutes from here and do a DEXA right
Oh,
after.
wow.
And we've noticed that those are pretty much spot on. I would say the exact percent. Um, I know several clients that have done that just in particular, and it was exactly the same.
That's
Like the amount of muscle, the
amazing.
percent of body fat. I mean,
Yeah.
it was within, very, very accurate amount. So the thing that's good about Fit 3D for our world in terms of like lifestyle and for competitors is for competitors, we are really, we really focus on symmetry. So when we see imbalances in the body, it does, first of all, it does a posture report, it does all of your circumference measurements. Um, Whereas for a lifestyle and a competitor, they can really benefit by seeing the inches go down, but also body imbalances. So for a lifestyle person, knowing that they have a body imbalance, correcting that through single leg exercises and things can really benefit them from an injury prevention standpoint. And then for competitors, it will help us on stage to look balanced and symmetrical up there.
Mhm.
Other things that it will show us is your BMR, so your basal metabolic rate, which is pretty cool. It will show you your BMI. Um, it will show you even the pressure that you put on your feet. If you put more pressure on your right foot and your heel or your toe, and then it'll split your posture from front, all different planes, front, side, and back. And yeah, I mean, just seeing that. And then it even does like a cool feature where it does like an overlay of your beginning body versus your old one. And it's so crazy for especially like lifestyle, big time weight loss
Mhm.
people. It's really cool to see how much their body changed. And it makes a fit 3D image of your body that you can look at and physically see the changes side by side, which is super cool.
I think it's really cool too for competitors, especially in the improvement season, but then I mean, also for lifestyle too, when you are trying to, because honestly, we want to lose weight and get healthy, but we really want to build a beautiful shape, a beautiful body. And I remember when I
Mhm.
first came to you and did my first prep, I had a lot of muscle. But I came from a strength training background. So I was training purely for strength, doing powerlifting and strongman, and just watching or seeing the difference in the images, even if, I had the similar, like I was lower body fat, of course, but like similar muscle mass, things like that, like the way my body looked was so different. The shape of my
Mhm.
glutes, my waist, bringing my traps down, bringing my shoulders up, things like that, where you were just kind of moving around and really building a really beautiful physique. That I really loved. And I know there's a lot of
Mhm.
similarities with the stuff that you get, the data you get from the Fit 3D to something like the InBody as well. Like the InBody will show you some imbalances and things like that, but they just print out a little, drawing of a person and show you where the different numbers are. Whereas this really shows you a 3D image of yourself and what your body looks like. And it's really cool.
Yeah, and they have other ones like StyQ is another one. That one is a slightly different than Fit 3D. It doesn't have like
Mm-hmm.
the posture stuff or the foot placement and all that. So it's similar. I don't know how it compares to a DEXA just anecdotally, just because I've done so many scans with athletes. I kind of know where things are at with that. But yeah, I think it's for the affordability. I'm seeing them pop up more and more at gyms, and places are getting Fit 3D. Like I have a client in Alaska that she just sends me her Fit 3D. So
Cool.
then if they're in different cities, they can find a Fit 3D, and most of them are like $10 to $20. So they're a fraction of the cost, like when it comes to DEXA comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can, look at their data from wherever they are in their hometown. And um, so it just kind of helps me understand, because I've seen so many athletes come through the lab that when I
Mm-hmm.
see them taking it at another facility, I can kind of track where they're at. And
Yeah.
for me,
For
like
sure.
I want my clients, no matter if they're lifestyle or they're a competitor, a good rate of loss is just about a percentage of body fat a month.
Mm-hmm.
And some other things too that are just really encouraging about that is it shows you a comparison of like how many inches you've lost on so many different parts of your body. So that's kind of cool too.
I love that.
And the
I like
scale's not
pointing
moving.
that out too, to have realistic goals and expectations, because um, I think for a lot of people, thinking about 1% of month seems like nothing, but
Hmm.
it's
Actually a lot.
important to have, yeah, it is a lot of body fat. And then it's important to have those realistic expectations. Even though like maybe the more you have to lose, or at the very beginning, you might lose more than that, but it probably will slow down to about, like, that's a great rate to expect for sustainable fat loss.
Yeah. And then the last one, we want to talk about the air displacement. And I've done a bod pod at a university and it was highly accurate. It was pretty cool. It's been a long time since I've done it. A lot of military bases have them. So I've had clients do those, but it
Hmm.
does show, your body um, fat pretty accurately along with like muscle tissue and all that. So that can be really um, good if you have like a facility in your area. It's just they're not as common.
Yeah, I have
What
not
I
heard much about that. I mean, I've heard bod pod, that term
Yeah.
before, but yeah, that would be
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of,
I'll
you
check
feel
it
like
out.
you're getting in a spaceship. It's like this
Yeah.
little egg.
I don't know.
It's
I'm a
kind of,
little bit
if you're
claustrophobic.
claustrophobic,
Yes.
don't do it.
I
Yeah.
can't
If
do
you
tanning
are,
beds.
do
I freak
not.
out.
Yeah, it can be really kind of scary if you're claustrophobic. So that would be a con on that one.
What about I mean the DEXA, don't you kind of go into something like that a little bit?
You're laying on a basically a
Oh,
bed,
it just kind of comes over you, doesn't
and
it?
it just is like this bar that goes across your body.
Gotcha.
And it's a very thin bar and it's
Yeah.
high above your head. Like
Yeah.
you're not supposed to move, but
Yeah.
you're not confined like a MRI or something like that,
Gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
So
it.
it's not bad.
Well, that is our breakdown of all of
Yeah.
the the basic methods used to measure your body fat, why we think it's important to know to track during your improvement season, during a fat loss phase. I will put the link to an article where I got a lot of this information from in the description if you guys want to do your own research. If you are local to Kansas City and you want to get a Fit 3D scan, if you want to come out to the Glam Girl lab, I believe there's a
Yeah.
link on the Glam Girl website for that. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. They
Book a
can
scan.
purchase one, even if they're not a glam girl. But
Yeah.
yeah, it comes with the membership if you're a part of the team. So
Yeah. So, and if you want to join the team, I will put that link in the description below as well. We take improvement season, prep clients, lifestyle, whatever your goals are. We just want to partner with you and help you reach those goals. So, if you have questions about body fat percentage or any of these methods or any random questions, make sure to either comment them below if you're watching on YouTube or send us a DM at Balanced Bodybuilding Radio. And until next week, do you
one
have
more thing, sorry. We have a free posing seminar. So those of you that are even if you're not a glam girl, it's free to the public, and it's here in Overland Park on August 20th from 1 to 2:30 at the Sweat Vault. It's going to be a free seminar, getting ready, kind of geared up for all of the fall shows and things like that. So Judge Kim Seeley will be there, and then myself and Leemarie and other coaches like Brittany and possibly Deb. So if you can make it, it's a free seminar. Pass on the word, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.